Joining us now is Trip Hawkins. Trip was formerly with Apple, but now, of course, president of Electronic Arts, the software company. And sitting next to Trip is John Merson, vice president for marketing with Ashton Tate. Gary?
Trip, there's been a lot of discussion about the computer slowdown, but there's a recent article that came out that said software sales are up 60%. Why the contradiction?
Well, actually, I think the industry has been going through a phase of consolidation, and overall this year has been a slower growth year than what some people expected. I think there are three major reasons for that. I think, number one, that consumers are tremendously confused, and that's largely a function of all the conflicting promises that have been made to them and all of the bad news that they've heard about in the last few years, so that's not surprising. In fact, in 1948, when CBS introduced the LP format for records for the first time, RCA followed out with the 45 to compete with it, and the record industry went into a 4-year slump. And that brings me to the second point.
Everybody's sort of waiting to see what the results are going to be at these times, right?
Yeah, and the second point I was going to make is that there's been a technology war going on, and every year we get a few new models that are incompatible. And you have to wonder if you would buy a new and improved television set if it didn't allow you to watch any of the current television shows. It creates additional confusion and isn't necessarily in the consumer's interest unless it is a fundamental technological breakthrough.
And that analogy basically is between things like the Amiga and the 520 that don't really have software that's compatible with the old home machines.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And then finally, there's been real chaos in the channel of distribution for computers and software, and it's been going through a lot of change.
John, when Trip mentioned the industry, are we really talking about two different situations? Is the software industry not in the same situation as the hardware industry?
I think the software industry faces many of the same factors as the hardware industry. There are too many players trying to bring too much product to market, and the market, both the channels of distribution and the customers, really can't absorb it all. At the same time, people tend to buy software throughout the life of a system that they own. As they become more conversant with it, they tend to want to do more and more with it. So '84 was a fantastic year for hardware, and I think as those people mature in their understanding and use of their machines, they'll want more and more software.
Well, John, what about the price erosion problem that we see in software? The problems of, at least what I've seen, in my own personal experience of going through multi-channel distribution where the percentage taken at each level is fairly high, and then we see that the prices at the retail level go down and down and down, and you finally get to the point where you say, well, why should you even be in the business?
Yeah, so you call it price erosion, see, as a buyer. See, I like that. It depends on your perspective, doesn't it? Sorry.
Well, the irony is that in many ways, software prices have been moving up and defying gravity. We have software prices in a mass market right now for $600 and $700. That would have been unheard of just a couple of years ago. Another curious thing is...
When you say the mass market, what do you mean by that? Do you mean a mass
throughout the
commercial market?
Yes, throughout the business software market, which covers 4,000 stores just across the U.S., we have software products selling at the $600 and $700 price point in very large numbers. Ashton Tate sold over 70,000 copies of Framework last year. I think anybody a couple of years ago who would have been asked to make predictions for a $695 product would have thought that kind of number blue sky.
But Trip, now if you're writing software, say, for something like the Amiga at $1,500 for the basic hardware, isn't it going to be kind of hard to sell a $600 or $700 software package to those people?
Yes, it will be. In fact, just to correct you, it's $1,295 for the basic hardware. And in fact, I think that's the configuration that many people would buy initially.
Without a monitor.
Without a monitor. Because you can use it with a television set or any composite video monitor. You don't have to buy the RGB monitor that they're offering, although that's a very nice monitor. But most of the software for the Amiga, I think, will be priced under $50.
So how are you going to make your money at $50? Direct sales, telemarketing?
Obviously, it has to be done on volume. I think prices coming down is obviously in the consumer's interest to the point that it allows the manufacturers of software and the creative people that are developing software to make enough money to continue to be attracted to being in that business.
Now, if you're going to be successful, and these people that are selling low-cost machines are going to be successful, what is going to have to be the installed base, let's say, middle of 1986? Or toward the end of 1986. Let's say Christmas of 1986.
Well, curiously enough, most of the software that we sell goes to new buyers, and many people buy a lot of their software when they buy their first machine. And right now, since the distribution of software is such a confusing jumbled situation, we're much more dependent on what retailers decide to carry than we are on the installed base. So we don't even think of it in installed base terms.
Okay. Now, let me just ask one other question here. Now, this is where a little bit of controversy may come up, but if we were to, let's say that the installed base was very large and Trip was very successful selling $50 software, would we see a $49.95 version of DBase 3?
Well, I think we'll probably see $49 versions of some business software. In fact, we've already seen that. Companies like Borland have brought desktop accessory software, which is in the business category, to market on a direct basis and also through retailers at the under $50 price point. So it can happen. I think customers look at business software, though, not just what am I getting today and what can I do with it, but I'm making a major investment of my time and energy in learning this product and in putting my information into it. That far outweighs the cost of the software package itself. And people want to be sure that the company that made the software is going to be around for a long time to support them. So there's much more brand consciousness. Brand meaning how strong is the company behind the package.
Speaking of how strong is the company, you've been involved, of course, in acquisitions and buying Multimate and so on. Is that a trend that's going to keep your end of this industry alive? Do you see more of that happening, a merger of all these software companies out there?
Yes, I think so. We are in a period of consolidation. There are too many software companies for the size of the market and its projected growth. And we're probably past the point where a one-product company, even a company with one very good product, can be viable on its own. And as these companies get together and share sales force, share distribution, share certain kinds of marketing know-how, they'll be stronger. So there's a great incentive for everybody to do that.
There's also a sense of integration of products, too, that is good for the customer.
Well, the customers want products to talk to each other. What good is the greatest word processor in the world if I can't exchange data with the greatest database in the world? Customers are much more insistent now on software compatibility across a broad range of products.
Now, the question that we talked about before is that, what is it that's going to make that home market? What kind of a product is going to make? It's not going to be probably a database program, right?
Well, I have a theory about that. I think the three most important applications at home are work at home, and homework. The work that you bring home from the office in your briefcase, the business that you run on the side or as your only business out of the house, and the homework that kids do in school. Those are very work-oriented markets. And I think when we have a significant installed base of personal computers in homes, we're probably going to see work-oriented software as one of the leading categories. And Trip's very close to it.
Trip, one last question. We're out of time. When you mentioned $50 software, which Electronic Arts will be turning out for the Amiga, you're talking about business software, not just games?
I'm talking about all kinds of software for creativity, productivity, and entertainment. Although I think that the home market is going to be driven, historically, every kind of consumer electronics product that has been purchased by the home has been purchased by men, just as personal computers have been, primarily for entertainment. And it's just a question of value. When they understand that the entertainment experience is dramatically different and profound, and they really want it, then they're going to be willing to spend the money for it.
Gentlemen, thank you. We're out of time for this segment of the show. Now, one of the companies you've heard